Hello everyone, we are live and this is going to be one of my authors chats of the week, and this is the first one I've done in a few weeks since I have been away for the past 2 weeks, traveling the world, literally. That was kind of fun. But I'm going to go send an invite to my co-host and rolling shortly, hopefully. Hello! How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great! I'm glad we could do this today.
Yes.
And I
I'm
love your hoodie, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I made it myself.
Hey, way to represent your brand, because that's your logo, right?
Yes.
That's fantastic. I love that. I wish my logo looked that cool. It's not.
Yeah, no, I have a few different hoodies. I love hoodies. I got different ones. This one's my book.
Ooh,
I got one for Unbalanced and Leona. I got to make one for my new book.
that's great. And actually, I don't know if you've ever listened to any of my chats, but they're very casual, low-key, and I just let you, since you're my co-host today, introduce yourself and talk about what you write. So let's talk about your books, old and new.
Okay, yeah. So my first book, Unbalanced, is as if Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing and Supernatural had an angsty slow burn baby. We're talking. They're all paranormal romances, kind of darkish. I like to say they're intro to dark romance.
Okay.
But you have fated mates, forced proximity, found family.
I love
Uh,
that.
they are a series of interconnected standalones. So each book, you're going to get different main characters, different stories, and everything. Leona is Bear Shifters. She's a badass with thick thighs who ends lives, and Xandros is the simp that calls her abuse foreplay. Um, it is a reverse bully romance, Grumpy Sunshine. The banter between the two of them is just perfect. This one's actually my favorite.
I love it.
My next book, Abyssal, comes out next week, Monday, July 15th. I'm still working on the elevator pitch. This one is he has so many red flags, he has his own color guard. So we're yeah. Witches, student teacher trope, abusive relationships.
Hmm.
Oh, and he's a shadow daddy, which everyone loves a good shadow daddy.
I see some love there as well. But okay, so you have three so far. Is your series going to continue after this third book, or are you trying to just end it at this trilogy stage?
No, it's gonna keep going. I don't have a definite number. They're because they're interconnected standalones. I am telling an overall story. It's just with each book you're gonna get, like I said, different main characters, but what's happening in the bigger world is impacting them, and then their choices that they make affect the bigger plot as well. So I'm leaving it pretty open for how many are going to be in the series. I'm guessing at least 10, but that can be very flexible. I'm drafting book 4 right now and already have the basic plot for 5 and 6 as well.
Ooh, fantastic. That's really neat. And it does seem every time I do talk to various romance authors, be it PNR or others, it seems like one of the favorite things to do are those, as you said, almost like standalone yet series concepts where each one is a new couple, because everybody loves the beginning of a love story. And everybody's captivated of how will they end up together, and what kind of turmoils they have to face before it's a potentially, I hate to say happily ever after, because sometimes I feel like that's a little bland ending, the way to end it, but their love story reaching its like climax. So that's kind of
Yeah,
neat.
I wrote these so that they could be read independently of each other, but still giving you idea of what's happening, big picture. But a few of my readers have said to read Unbalanced, which is the first book, because it introduces you to the world, and it also introduces you to the series antagonist and protagonist. The male main character in here, Sebastian, he's going to show up in every book. In Leona, you see him again, and you see that happily ever after that I gave you. While you still have the ever after part, it's getting kind of rocky. I really want my relationships to come off as real. And not just, oh, well, they went through a rough patch at the beginning, but now it's bliss for eternity. Like, that's not how that works. You know, every relationship has bumps, doesn't matter if it's 5, 10, 30 years. So, and that's what I'm trying to show to. So, like I said, those characters will reappear as side characters, more so you can get glimpses of that big picture.
So what was it that inspired? I'm going to make sure my dog walks by and doesn't trip over my ring light. Okay, we made it.
I put my dogs out and shut the door, because otherwise they'd be in and out yelling at me.
See, I was going to do that, but then he was already asleep on the bed, and I was like, I'll just...
Yeah, you don't want to bother them.
Exactly. But sorry, going back to the question, what was the original inspiration that triggered the whole, I'm going to sit down and not only write a book, but an entire series? Like, what was it that was like, this is it. This is going to be my first novel.
So Unbalanced, when I tell you that Unbalanced is like Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing, it's because I had a naughty dream with Van Helsing. And I woke up and I said, that's a really good idea for a book. But I play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a huge nerd. And so I, started dissecting what I thought was a plot, my half-assed plot, and started just, like I said, picking it apart. And then it turned into my rough draft, which was vastly different than the actual published work. But as I was going through and editing Unbalanced, a very small character in the book, she's only in there for like 3 paragraphs. She was just like, oh no, bitch, you're telling my story next. And was literally like beating me up, or at least my brain up. And that's how I came with Leona. And I said, well, let's just keep going then. Let's see where this goes. I never know what I'm doing, so.
Well, I feel like the way you write and for your type of genre, it's easier for, and I don't want to say easy as in like it's easy, but it's, people can write stories and not necessarily know how many books and where it's absolutely going to end, because the way you write, you're doing new couples each time and you're building out and you're building out and building out. Other stories, depending on how authors write, they might need to know where they're ending because it may not make sense. Or it kind of sounds like you really, went off on a side tangent. So it is kind of interesting, talking with various authors and what inspires them and how their storylines are, just revealing themselves to the author. So that's really kind of neat to me.
Yeah, I have the end drafted, like the final chapter in the series. I have it drafted, but the way I have everything set up, I can move books around, I can add books, I can remove books. It's really just going to depend on if my characters are talking to me or not.
And I also want to go back to the point of it started with a dream, because I know my first book was like that too. I had a dream. It wasn't the romantic, spicy one, but it was like an action, trying to survive in a scenario, and the whole thing about this tiger shifter in a military camp running for her life just stuck with me, and I was like, this is going to become a book, and it ended up becoming my first fully published book that I wrote. So that was, I like that. I like that. So, okay, you said Leona is your favorite character. Why is she your favorite so far?
Okay, so Leona, I put a lot of myself in Leona. I know everyone kind of puts a little bit of themselves in their characters. And I could see like different facets of myself in Unbalanced. But Leona is a badass. She is the chief of her clan. She's a bear shifter. She is pure alpha. Right? Doesn't take shit from anyone. I spent almost 10 years in the army, and while I met a lot of awesome people, there is still a lot of misogyny and sexism.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of times where I was dismissed simply because I was a woman or because I have a baby face, so I look a lot younger than I am. And so people would be like, well, she obviously doesn't know what she's doing. And I'm like, we're the same rank. Like, I have the same experiences. I know my job.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're dealing with someone who outranks you, you have to just bite your tongue and Roger, Sergeant. Yes, Sergeant. Whatever you say, Sergeant. Even when they're being complete jackasses and they're wrong, if you try to correct them, that's insubordination. A lot. I was a very angry person, very angry, and a lot of that came out in Leona. She was able to do and say the things that I wasn't able to. Right? Someone gets into her personal space, she maims them. Someone disrespects her, she breaks all their teeth. You know, she tells them to fuck off in the most brutal and, how do I say this? Like, she doesn't just like tell you to shut up. She will make you feel so bad about yourself that like you're like, I'm never gonna say anything ever again. And I couldn't do that, but through Leona I could. And so like I absolutely love her. Some people say she's too much, and I'm like, I could have made her go harder if I really tried.
Well, and again, being able to do all these kind of chats with other authors, I know that a number of them have utilized the art of writing as a way to cope with past experiences and heal. And so do you feel like any of that happened when you were writing, especially this particular character? Or was this just an outlet of you to like scream through her voice?
Yes, like all of that. Like there were times when I felt really bad for Xandros, the male main character. I was like, oh my god, I'm putting him through so much. But like it had to be that way. And the way that he is, my husband is very laid back, you know, likes making people laugh, and that was Xandros. And that's like how he gets through to her. But writing it and then all my self edits, my editor, I felt bad, but not really, because she kept trying to change things. She was like, she's way too much, you need to tone her down. And I'm like, no, we're just gonna do, you know, a line copy edit and a proofread. Then if I'm not changing her at all. And working through all that, I'm not as angry.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's like, Evie's so nice. Evie went through some shit and worked through some trauma to be this nice. If y'all would have met me just a few years ago, y'all would be like, oh my god, she's horrible. I just didn't have the time or the capacity to, not that I couldn't show compassion, but like I was going. I'm working 16, 18-hour days. I'm pissed off all the time. Like I didn't have time. You know, what little time I did have was for my family.
Mm-hmm. So what allowed you to have the time to finally write? Because writing takes a lot of time, editing takes more. And then there's marketing on top of that.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I ended up having to have surgery on my knee. It was a full reconstruction, and I was laid up. You know, I couldn't even drive, crutches, a full brace. Wow. For a few months. And then afterwards we found out that I had a bunch of other issues that my body was maintaining, but the trauma of the surgery finally pushed me over the edge. I'm now disabled. So the Army kicked me out. They were like, we don't want you no more. Goodbye. And because all of my issues are severe enough, I can no longer work. So now I'm an author.
Hey, you know, that's a first one for me, but as long as you love writing, I feel like that's a healthy thing. And writing as a way to express yourself, be it for, you know, just a side thing to a full-time job, it's a wonderful thing, as long as you enjoy it. If it drives you crazy, don't do something that makes you just angry.
No, it's the marketing that does that. Like, if I had the money to just pay someone to do it,
Hmm.
buy, buy. Just here's you some graphics. Here's the cover art. Buy.
Hey, I don't know. I'm with you. I'm sure there are a lot of other authors who would agree that if someone could just take the marketing and advertising away, we would be happy because we want to write. Now, there's always going to be the few that like that aspect. There are certain aspects of marketing that I enjoy, but I really would prefer just to write.
Yeah.
I really just want to do that, guys. That's what I want to do. But it comes with a package, I guess. And until someone teaches me differently, that's all I know.
Yeah.
So, okay, so how did you figure out? Because I'm assuming, wait, actually, I should never assume. Are you self published or you.
I am.
Okay.
I
I don't
am.
want to assume. Let me not assume. But so how did you figure out how to do that? Because for me, I started a number of years ago when I started my journey and didn't didn't have the resources that we have today, as well as didn't know where to find what resources there were back then. So I kind of floundered for a number of years just figuring things out. But how about you? What kind of pointed you in the
Well,
right direction for that?
when I first started writing, I was writing for me. I had no intention to publish. I had these ideas. I had time. Let's do this. Like I said, Unbalanced was a lot different than it is now. Because I was just writing for me. And my husband was like, "Babe, you should publish these." And I was like, "I am not dealing with, an agent or a publisher. All those rejection letters, like,
It's so
I just
heartbreaking.
knew I'd get like 2 or 3 rejection letters and then I'd quit because I'd be crying too much." But I had, it was funny. My daughter had TikTok. She's doing the dances and stuff. And then my husband got it. He does a lot of car stuff, like car shows, custom cars, all that fun stuff. And so he got one to connect with his buddies, but he also had puppy videos. And I was like, I want to watch puppies. So I got TikTok to watch the animals. And
Hey, great.
I'm scrolling and a book talk video comes across my feed. And I'm like, oh, holy shit, there's what book talk. So I'm
Yep.
going through and then I'm hearing all of these authors talk about self-publishing, indie publishing, the how-tos, and I'm like, oh shit. And so I'm going through, did my research, met some amazing people, became friends, and decided, okay, let's do this.
I love that. No, and that's you see, everybody who joins this community comes at it from different reasons, and I was the Miss Reluctant because I already been publishing for a little bit and was already on all these other social media, and I didn't want to do another one. I was tired. There's only so much time in a day, and I made every excuse under the sun. And now my husband, he was like, you should get on it. You should do it. It's a big thing, and you should really. He kept encouraging. Finally, I was like, okay, fine. Bit the bullet, jumped on, and I was never looked back, pretty much, because it's like, oh, I should have been here the whole time.
Right?
And I do see Samantha saying I'm a big cryberry baby, so I get that 100%. So
Yeah.
yes, it's hard to have rejection. It's also hard to get critiques, and it's hard, especially the first time you see those red marks on your manuscript when an editor comes back. We'll talk about
I
you.
cried for days. I had to, I don't know if you know Mama Mika Michaels. She's an author here on TikTok, and she was live, and I was like, "Can I come on real quick?" And I got up there, and I would just cry. I'm like, "There's so much." She walked me through my first time editing.
Mhm. That's good. Hey, it's always nice to have that writing buddy or an author buddy to kind of help you through. And Brian also agrees. I see you can relate because
Brian
yeah.
and I now have the same editor, Samantha Moran. She's
Aw.
phenomenal, but she goes like hardcore. Um, she and then she in a boss move, she sent me tissues, like a whole pack of tissues. She's like for when we're editing, and I'm like, oh my god.
That's hysterical. And might I know her name again? Because I know as I already have one editor that recently retired, and another my second one's probably going to do the same soon. And I'm like, oh, I need to start looking for a new one.
Her name's Samantha Moran. She's an author as well. She writes paranormal thrillers and horror. She's an amazing author. That's how I met her. I read her book and I was like, I did not find one typo, one issue at all. And so I messaged her, "Who's your editor?" She's like, "I'm my own editor." She has an English degree and everything. And I was like, "You mean you're my editor now?"
I love that. And I see a lot of Sam's the best thing, so that's awesome. Yeah, no, it's the hard thing of building your network, building your people, and then all of a sudden either, someone can't do their job anymore, retiring from me, and it's kind of like, oh, now I have to go through that whole process again and find people, and I need to be asking around being like, who do you use? Do you like them? What do you think? Networking. Yes. This is why we're here. Networking. It is great. Okay, so for me, actually, let me go back. So for you have 3 books now, and you have shifters. Is your magic system based around shifters, or are there other entities in your universe?
Oh no. So I know I was, bear shifters, but each book has different main characters and they're all of different species. So Unbalanced, our female main character is actually human, but our male main character is an angel demon hybrid. He's the only one in existence. He's considered an abomination by most. So that adds all kinds of mental and emotional trauma that our FMC Lucy has to deal with. Leona, like I said, is bear shifters. Abyssal is actually witches. Our male main character, Donovan, he is half witch, half abyssal, hence the title. And so he's basically a witch with shadow powers. Book 4 is going to be vampires. Book 5 is going to be a wolf shifter and a Grigori, which if you read Unbalanced, Grigori are they're shapeshifters, but they have the ability to shape into any and anything living. Nice. So they could be a wolf, they can be a cat, they can be another person. They're not bound by that one shape.
And I see, vampires, and that's the thing. So far I've heard, like, you hitting pretty much all the dots for PNR anyways. Everybody's gonna be like, okay, well, if vampires aren't your thing, what about the angel demon hybrids?
Yeah,
that's not your thing. What about shifters?
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Not necessarily pander, but my goal has always been to be able to hit something for everyone. Like I said, angels, demons, forced proximity, fated mates. This one's witches, abusive relationship, shadow daddy, reverse bully. Book 4 is going to be a second chance romance. So I'm trying to hit different tropes, different species, different stories. So then that way it's, okay, well, maybe you thought Leona was too much, but do you like vampires?
And again, the way you break it up, even though clearly, reading the first one would be the best because it's a good bite into, this universe you're building out. On the other hand, because you have the standalones, if someone really is, I don't want to read this one, they could, I'm thinking, possibly get away and read the ones they want.
Yes, I give a decent recap. It's not an info dump, but it gives you just the main points of what's going on. Even like in book 3, Abyssal, there's no mention of what happened in book 2. Because what I'm trying to do is build every book is going to add to the world. You're going to, like I said, you're going to have that main plot, that main story that's going through with our main antagonist and protagonist, but all of these smaller characters, obviously they're the main characters of each book, but each one you're going to start seeing it kind of like, or you'll get into book 4 and then you'll be like, oh shit, because if you go back to book 1, you're going to see the foreshadowing I did that you didn't realize was foreshadowing until this one thing happens. So, like I said, there's gonna be some connectivity. You will see some characters cross over as side characters, or at least an honorable mention. But for the most part, they're not gonna have anything to do with the current story.
That's really neat. And I also see a comment from Samantha saying, "I love all those. My TBR is insane now." So there you go.
Dude, every time I open this app, a book gets added to my wish list.
It's true. It's true. I've been growing my wish list, and my physical copies are growing, and my bank account is dwindling, and so I'm gonna notice I have not allergies. I have a head cold, but yeah, every time I come on here, there's another one. There's another one.
I have a stack of books on my bedside table, but I'll still order more physical books because that's what I prefer to read. And my husband's like, "Babe, they're gonna crush you in your sleep one night," and I'm like, "Yeah."
I'm a physical book person too, but like I respect everybody's preferences, and that's why when I try to release my books, I try to make sure I can expand them into all different formats, so they can be reachable for everyone. But the physical books are my favorite, and moved to a new house, filled up all the bookshelves, and still have books that need homes, and still getting more. So
I actually have bookshelves as my birthday and Christmas wish list, because right now my bookshelf is stacked 3 deep on multiple shelves. I'm just like, man, I need more room.
And okay, it didn't help because I just started doing direct sales and opening my own bookshop at the end of last year, that I took over some of my bookshelves for my own copies. That also didn't help the collecting part of it. But still love collecting books, and not going to stop.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
And at least for me, it's like anytime I'm starting to work on new projects and I have to do research, it's nice to be like, oh, I ordered all this book, which is what I just recently did. Ordered all these books because they're research for my upcoming book. So I have to read these books, and it's what I'm doing right now.
Yes, I recently got into splatterpunk and
I've heard
horror.
of that one.
Splatterpunk is extreme horror.
Splatterpunk. I misheard. I thought you said sweater punk, and I'm like,
Yes, sweater punk where everyone wears sweaters. It's
I
about
was really
about
confused
making.
with that. Splatterpunk. Okay, yes, I got that.
Yeah. I saw a video, and she was like, "Is it still incest if her head's not attached?" And I went, "I need to find out," and ended up reading her entire catalog, and it got me hooked. And so I said, "Well, I want to try to write this now."
See? It's okay. The new shiny idea concept is a hard one to like turn away from. And I do see Brian saying physical books are trophies. They are. And steampunk is fantastic. But yeah, it's I lost my train of thought right there because I saw steampunk and
No, I get you with the shiny ideas. I currently have 37 whips because I'll get that shiny new idea, and I have to at least start it, so that way my brain will be quiet enough so I can go back and work on what I'm wanting to work on.
See, I make notes. I'll either do the scene that captivated me or the pitch idea or whatever, and I put it away, and I'm typically have been good of, I'm publishing 2 series actively, but sticking with those, and I have a method and everything up until this year, and then I just got stuck in a rut writing one book, and it's just become really bogged down to the point where I was like, I need to step away, time to play with a shiny idea, and that's the whole, that's what I've been working on now.
I will write down my shiny idea. I'm currently actively working on 5 different books. Mm-hmm. Right now I have one for Monday, one for Tuesday, one for Wednesday. Nice. So that way I can be putting out additional things, not just this series.
And that's smart. I mean, depending on how you can structure your writing schedule, some people focus on one until it's done, and then they pick up the next one, and that's how they do it. I guess I'm kind of a little bit like you, where I'm working multiple in different stages. So there's always the act of writing, and then there's whatever I'm editing, and one I'm formatting, and then there's a bunch that have been written, but various stages of editing that kind of sit on the back burner until it's time. And One, two, three, four, five, six, and seven. Seven I have kind of just sitting around right now of various things. But it's they're not all active. Some of them are sleeping. I say put them to rest. They're sleeping. They're hibernating.
Yeah, I say marinating because sometimes I need to let it sit and let my brain just think of things.
Okay. I get that. And I also see Brian. No, one at a time is totally fine. That is totally fine. If that's the way it
He's
works,
not doing it wrong. Brian is a fantastic author. Fantastic. I love Eddie the Legend.
see, it's good. It's good. And if you need to focus on one thing and make it fantastic, do that. Because what you don't want to do is get too bogged down with all these work and projects and forget to actually complete one, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or you start getting crossover, or you're like, well, I'm working on it, so I need to keep working when your brain doesn't want to. Readers can tell
Yeah.
when you don't want to do something.
So what is your favorite thing about the writing process, and what is one of your least favorite things about the writing process?
The writing is definitely the best part. The marketing is the worst part. But you know what else kind of like that in between is when I can see it in my head like a movie, and I'm like, this is so awesome, this is so great, right? Like a cool action scene or something's in my head, and then I go to write and I'm just like sharp pointy sword in tummy.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens. I sometimes have problems where it's like the story is going so fast in my head. I'm like, whoa, I can't write. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Just can't keep up with where your head's going. Your head's spinning a mile a minute, and you're like, my fingers can't go that fast. They're not slow, but they're not that fast.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a problem. It can be definitely a problem. But okay, so for your first book, which of the two characters, I'm assuming your Van Helsing style character was the first one that you came up with.
Yeah, so in Unbalanced, like I said, Sebastian was thought of first, but I actually stopped. I got the basic idea of how I wanted him, but then I went and really developed my villain. My bad guy, Tristan. He is so much fun to write. He really is. And you know, I am not very clever, but Tristan is. I like to think of him as a cross between James Moriarty and the Joker.
Nice.
So just like super smart but unhinged.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to write a super smart character when like you're not genius level, and like you don't want your characters to be dumb.
Yeah.
But he needs to be smarter. So it was really fun writing him, having that smoothness to him that the other characters don't have. And then I went through and worked on my female main character, Lucy. She has her life together pretty much. She's just had a very tragic life. But it was great to have Sebastian, who likes to pretend he's put together and then he's absolutely not.
Well, I feel like there are a lot of actual people who put on the facade of I have it together, and inside they're just crumbling. So it can be relatable to some people.
Yes. I wanted to, especially with the whole angel demon hybrid aspect. I've seen it before in books. And usually the problem, right, not everyone, but usually their problem is controlling their powers. Either they're too angelic or too demonic, or it slips the leash, whatever. And while you see a little bit of that, my main concern was focusing on the mental and emotional issues that he has, to humanize him, but also that like his power is irrelevant in the sense of their relationship. Like she does not care about his power. except for the fact that he's protecting her. That's it. You know, she doesn't care if he was human or a demon or whatever. She was like, stop being a dick.
And sometimes that's all you need. I love that. I love that. So let me ask you, since we're getting the hour starting to scurry past, we're getting there to that mark where all of a sudden you blink and then it's like over and you're like, oh, wait, where'd the day go? So for your books, you have 2 with the 3rd one coming out next week. This is super exciting. Where can people find them? Like, are you exclusive through Amazon? Do you do direct sales from your own shop? Are you wide? Where can people find them, and what formats are they in currently?
Okay, so all of my books so far are going to be in KU, so they will be ebook exclusive to Amazon. You can get physical copies from me as well as Amazon, but you can get them from me with signed copy with all the swag, like character art and bookmark stickers, all that fun stuff. The only one with an audiobook right now is Unbalanced. It was narrated by the fantastic Allie Dane, reading as Andrea May. That's her pseudonym when she reads adult content books. And Matt Christensen. And I have to say, Matt did such a good job that when I was reviewing the audiobook files, I could not listen to the spicy parts. Right, it made me feel a certain way, which is the point, but I wasn't reading someone else's book, right? He was reading my book, so I had another man reading my words, making me feel a certain way, and I messaged him. I was like, Matt, how dare you? I'm married.
That's great. That's great. That's a mark of a good narrator, is like, again, when they make your voices and characters come alive. And when you have a little spicy book, that can...
No, I was sitting here just beat red, and I'm like, I can't listen to this. And my husband even asked, hey, how's the review going? And I was like,
shut the door.
I was like, babe, I couldn't do it. I could not do the spicy parts. And he was like, why? I was like, because Matt's voice. And he started laughing, and he was like, you got to get through it. I said, no, I don't. I don't care if there's a mistake. I'm not doing it.
I trust my narrators.
There was only like two mistakes that I caught for the entire book. I'm gonna assume that, you know, the few chapters that had spice were gonna be all right.
We'll go with it. And hopefully everybody else was so captivated. What was it? The scene. They're gonna ignore it too.
Right.
No, that's fantastic. I always ask that because if this platform's nice, and never know, sometimes it's not, I'll try to repurpose this video on my YouTube channel later on and put all your content down below. So hopefully down the line, you'll find more readers that way. But that's why I ask sometimes these questions. And one of the other ones then on that note is, where else can people find and follow you as an author outside of Book Talk? Do you have a website, newsletter, other socials, that kind of thing?
Yes. So I was fortunate. I was able to get everything across the board as Evie Black Books. So my website, evieblackbooks.com, all my handles for Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, even though I constantly forget to post, it's all at Evie Black Books. Brian messages me like once a week. He's like, have you posted the Threads? I'm like, I haven't.
You can see, I don't know, I have actually not used Threads yet, so again, it's one of those, there's only so much time in the day, and I don't know if it's worth it. Is it really worth it? I don't know.
I don't know if it is or not. Like I said, usually when he reminds me, I'll go post, and then I'll completely forget about it until he reminds me.
It's good to have, again, those bookish buddies that have your back and be like, hey, are you okay? Don't forget to do this.
I am currently, I have, for my Book of Faces reader group, I have a schmiveaway going on currently. If I can get to 200 members, I'm going to be gifting away gives. These mods are weird. A signed copy. there'll actually be 2 winners, but I'll do a signed copy with all the swag of Abyssal.
That's so cool. I was also going to ask for your upcoming release what you had prepared, if anything, for your release. Are you going to do something like super big and special, something low key? I've done it all. Well, I haven't really done something epically huge, but I feel like that's one of the weak spots is how to do a book release, because I'm always that person that's like, it's done, release it. And I'm like, oh, I never promoted it in advance and all that stuff.
No, what I would like to do is get that email from KDP saying that my book is live, and then I'll sleep for a month. That's what I'd like to do. But I have, because I love my readers so much, I currently have the actual physical copies of Abyssal. I got my author copies early, so the pre-orders on my website are only for $15.99. Which is what they are going to sell from Amazon for, but you also get all the swag, so the character art, the bookmarks, the stickers. It's kind of late now, but even if I mailed them off right now, they wouldn't get there in time, but I've already sent out the pre-orders, so they got, whoever bought them from me got them early, before release. And then on Amazon, it's on sale for $1.99 for the pre-order. I'm going to be doing like back-to-back lives the rest of this week. I have a pre-launch party with Danielle on Friday. And then Monday on release day, I'm going live for probably most of the day. We'll probably read chapters from the book. And then I'm going to be live with Shelly on Chaos and Book Talk Monday night as well, where she will do a way give for this as well.
Making a note for Monday for your book release. So if I have a moment, I can pop on and be like, yay!
You're more than welcome. Everyone's welcome to show up. You can, if you want a box, I'll give you a box. We're just hanging out.
That's so cool. Yeah, and Brian saying, I need a schedule, please. Is there any place where you posted the schedule? Because that's a smart thing to do. And again, one of those things I always forget about is like, oh, you arrange all these things, and then you forget to have a list and be like, you can find my...
Yeah, I did write them down. I have a nice dry erase calendar right here. Brian, I'll take a picture and mail it or text it to you.
Oh.
Because I'll forget. I'll be like, oh, I should tell people I'm going live.
Hey, you never know. I know it's not a beautiful thing, but if you do take that picture, you can post that on your Instagram and Facebook and be like, here's my schedule. Handwritten. Find me.
That's a good idea. Some people will be on here and they'll be like, what? Because I just put like names. I just put Katharine 7.
Okay, maybe it needs a little bit more of a, maybe in your blurb, you're like, to explain this picture is ... But yeah, I'm all about cross-promoting. So if you do something once, milk it for all it's worth, because my time is limited, and that's what I try. I try not to be boring, but I also try to be smart. Work smarter, not harder.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. And okay, for going forward, so you have your release. Going forward beyond that, what are your other writing goals? Like, are you going to try to release one book a year, one book every other year, multiple books a year? Like, what can people expect from your tentative?
I'm planning on doing at least one book in the Agents of Balance and Chaos a year. So book 4 should come out 2025.
Nice.
I do plan on trying to release other books. That's going to depend on, finances and everything. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping I can release 2 books next year, but I know for certain at least the next book in the series will be out.
Nice. I love that. And it gives people, something for people to look forward to. And the whole thing that when I know one of my fears is if I wait too long between publishing that people will forget. And there will be people who forget, but your diehard fans, they're not going to forget. They're the ones who are probably going to be messaging you, but like, I'm still waiting. Come on.
No, I get messages all the time like, hey, you need to write this book. You need to write this side character that like you stopped thinking about the minute the book was released. I need a book for them. And I'm like, really?
You could go on forever that way. Or, hey, here's a marketing trick. Do a short story. Something really short about it and put it in your newsletter. And, as a giveaway, be like, okay, well, and if you really want to market it and work with your readers, just say, hey, everybody votes on which character gets their short story. And I'm going to put it in my newsletter. Boom.
I like that idea.
Short story. Short story. And then if you decide, okay, I really like this, you can expand and make a book later on.
That is true.
Because I'm sure, knowing at least how I write, and I write a lot of side characters, it could go on forever.
It really could.
It really could. Now, beyond this series, and you said you have some other things in the works. Are they also PNR? Are they going to be other genres? Or, because I know you mentioned splatterpunk at some point.
Yeah, I'm going to try to stay within the romance umbrella because I love romance. But I am going to hit all the different subgenres. So I have a serial unaliver one that I'm actively working on. That's going to be my splatterpunk.
Nice.
Then, like I said, book 4, I have a crime one that I'm working on. Where it's going to basically be an FBI agent and a hippie try to solve a small town crime together. I have a Treasure Island retelling where it's a gender bent. Instead of Jim Hawkins, it's Gemma Hawkins. And then I have a dark romantasy that I'm working on.
Nice. That is
bouncing around, but staying under that umbrella.
Book a week for each day of the week.
I do.
Now, do you have, because now you're working on so many different projects, and that's my thing, is working with so many different projects. There are times where maybe I'm actively like rereading aloud one thing, but because I mix up the characters' names. Like, I know the main character is this, but I'm saying another main character. Even though it's written correctly, I'm still saying my other character. Like, do you have any moments where it's just your brain spazzes and you're like, I don't know what reality I'm in?
Yes and no. So what I tend to do is I try to, I suffer from insomnia. And so one of the tricks to help my brain shut the hell up, so I'm not on 10 different trains of thought at a time, is I will try to think of what I want to write next. In whatever book I'm working on. And it works out that, so like Sunday night, I will sit there and be, all right, serial unaliver books tomorrow. What's happening next? And then just try to go through and figure it out. So I'm fairly simple, keeping it from crossing over too much, but there are times when I am writing, the serial unaliver is obviously contemporary, and I'm just like, man, I really wish I could have him just teleport instead of driving 30 minutes. It would be so much easier to use magic.
You could have a subtle, low magic world if you so choose. You are the author. If you really decide, you know what the heck, you can. On the other hand, having it very realistic is fantastic as well, because...
Yeah, well, and then like the Treasure Island retelling, I have to remember, this is back in the 1800s. They don't have electricity. They don't have cell phones. They don't have lights. They don't have any of that. So I'm just like, she held up the candelabra. And I'm like, this is dumb. She should just turn on the lights.
Yeah. It is fun. That's one of those things, is when you write a world and you set parameters to it, even if it's our world, there are parameters in our world.
Yes. You
just have to stick with them. But sometimes you as an author hit your head on the proverbial wall because you're like, but I want to do it this way, but I can't because I made the rules and chose the setup and I can't.
And that's the hardest part too, is I have a hard magic system. I made sure to put my left and right limits for everything. because one, that leads to plot holes, and that leads to plot armor, and that leads to a bunch of other things. So even when I'm like, it'd be really cool if I did this,
Yeah.
but that breaks the world, and so now I have to think of another way.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you never know, if you have these like cool little ideas, you might be able to capture that bubble, hold on to it, and when a future work comes out that makes sense, put it back in there and be like, I never got to do it for this book, but I'm going to do it for this book.
Yeah, I definitely have different ideas for things, and I'm excited to see where it goes, because like I said, half the time I don't know what I'm doing. I think I do, and then my characters are like, nope, we're doing this instead. So I'm as excited as my readers to find out what happens next.
And I'll notice that depending on the story, sometimes if I let my characters have a greater free reign, it comes more naturally. Other times, if I have too much free reign, nothing happens, because they're like, well, help us. And I'm like, I don't know how to help you. You're supposed to be doing something.
Yes, yeah,
that sweet spot for everything.
I've done that too. Sometimes I'll just write. I'll just write. I'm not really thinking about what I'm writing. I'm letting the characters do their thing, and then they're just going in circles.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, do I need to blow up the building you're in? Right? Like, do I need to unalive you? Is that what we're doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I do want to go back to the point when you mentioned way earlier on the fact that when your editor was working through your second book, how you guys were butting heads and she wanted to change your character, but you stood up for her. And that's the thing is, for anybody who's listening in the writing world, as an author, you have a choice to say no to your editor. At least in the indie author world, it's a benefit. And I know editors are there, and the point we're paying for them is to help us make it better grammatically, spelling, plot holes, other things. But we as an author have to stand up for what we believe in for our own stories and, do it. And it can be tough. But
well, she kept, like I said, she kept trying to tone Leona down. Leona swears a lot. She's very violent, and she kept trying to, she doesn't need to swear so much. I'm like, yes, she does. Yes, she does. But so I got a new editor for book 3, Samantha Moran, and she was just like, it'd be really awesome is if they swore more. And I was like, yes, let's do that. He added the word fuck like 30 more times. I was so proud.
I'm so proud. I love that. That's something I've not heard. But on the other hand, most of my book series are second world scenarios, and their swear words aren't necessarily the same that we use. So I like inventing my own swear words.
I like that. Yeah, no, it was all appropriate. She wasn't just throwing it in wherever, but she was just like, there should be another fuck there. And I'm like, you know what? Yes. Let's go for it.
Exactly. And Brian, you're correct. Editors are supposed to enhance your written work, not totally change it. So I agree that. I definitely agree with that. And that's the thing is you have to find the right editor that works with you, that you both get along and you both understand what you expect out of each other and where your parameters and limits lie, because one or the other can push too much too.
Yes. Yeah, no, I sat down with Samantha before she got into it, and I said, look, this is my idea, this is the vibe for the book, this is what I'm looking at, these are the characters, and she'd go through and she'd make a suggestion, and I'd be like, I get where you're going, and you're technically not wrong, but it needs to be something like this to fit the vibe. And then she'd be like, this word? And I'm like, yes, that word.
Yeah, I know. There's sometimes when I'm like, I know there's a word for this, and no matter how much I try to Google search it, but I can't describe it correctly, and I'll put in parentheses, it's kind of like this, but this, and I'm meaning like this, and then the editor will come in and be like, you mean this? And I'm like, yes. Thank you.
So I am very bad with repetition. I think, because there are some words that there's not a lot of alternatives like fingers or blood or there's only so many words you can do, but like because she's so great, I learned so much from her drafting this next book. I've been catching it myself. But I went through and I'd highlight where I want the repetition. I highlighted and I said, I know I just called him a douchebag, but he is, so leave this.
I got you. Yeah. And that's one of those skills that writers get better at, and it's catching repetition and figuring out when to use it the way you want and purposely embed it. And I know it's hard in the beginning because, and it's something still, there are certain words, like you said, that people repeat and repeat and repeat, and I'm getting better at catching them and also arguing when I want that repeat, because I'm trying to make it impactful, or this concept just really stick and sink home. So it is a good skill to figure out.
Yes, just like sentence fragments. You do it too much, you're like, well, it reads very stilted. If you don't, I personally like them, but I feel that they should be used for impact and not just as a style,
Mm-hmm. And one of the, if you read aloud, which I know a lot of authors encourage that concept, or have it read artificially to you, whatever, have it read aloud. It helps you catch certain things where you're like, okay, yes, the rhythm is kind of not working well. The flow's not right, where there's something here we need to tweak, and it does. That is one of those easy ways to catch certain things, theoretically.
I had, because I use Microsoft Word, I had their AI, their talk-to-text feature that they have, read aloud Abyssal when it was still in draft form. And it is so funny listening to that very computerized voice swear. because I used most of the sentence fragments when it came to Donovan's point of view, because he was mostly just fuck. So hearing the computer go fuck, I was just dying. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I can't. I haven't. I'm the person who kind of reads. I read to myself aloud, but I do know, like, one of my editors uses Word and that kind of software to read aloud, and I can only imagine how it sounds like.
Oh, it's hilarious. It really is.
I bet for the spicy scenes, it's also just as fun.
Oh, yes. That's the spot. Like I said, it's unnatural sounding.
I bet. I don't know why. I dislike this whole, I don't know if you've ever had to deal with it, but now I do these lives, and one of the updates that happened a couple months is the swipe thing, and it's just like, I can see it coming up, and I'm like, okay.
And I don't get it either, because it's only supposed to come up when they sense inactivity. But we're having a conversation, so I don't know.
I think for me, the only thing that makes sense is because I set these for an hour, and it's like, okay, you've hit your hour. Are you still going forward, or should I cut it off for you? And I was like, that's the only thing I can think of, is because I specifically set them for hour markers. But that also reminds me, we've hit the hour. And with that said, I do want to ask you and anybody else who's listening if there's anything that, topic-wise that you wanted to cover that we haven't covered so far, or any questions you had that you didn't get a chance to ask, or any announcements that you wanted to make, those kind of things. Just wanted to make sure we covered everything you wanted to cover today.
No, just Abyssal releases on Monday. It's in 4 days.
Woo!
That's it.
That is so exciting. A new book in the world.
Yes, I am so excited. And I'm ready. I'm ready for release.
I love it. And I hope it's a fantastic release, and it's a beautiful cover, and the series sounds fantastic. Yes, give all the hearts. Any chance, I see a question popping up, any chance of combining your 34 whips into 8 more?
No, there's like a few that I could possibly but they're all, like I said, I'm trying to hit all the different subgenres, so they're all different.
Yeah, and it's good because, as I mentioned before, when it comes to fans of any genre, but especially when it comes to romance genres, there's going to be some themes that people really love, each individually, and some that the individual really doesn't like. So offering as many as possible allows an author to capture more people. And if you convert them into super fans, then they'll try the others. They'll try the others. That's what you want.
Yep.
Catch them all. Catch them all. Anywho, thank you for coming out and chatting with me this evening. It was so much fun meeting you and talking with you, and I am obsessed about your hoodie and I'm so excited about your book release on Monday. But yeah, if you ever want to do one of these again, I host them weekly. I do plan in advance.
Oh yeah, I'd love to be back on the show. This was great. I thought we had a really good conversation.
Yeah. Well, just like I said, feel free to message me at any point, and I will let you know if I'm able to repurpose this on my YouTube channel in a few weeks or whatnot, and I'll let you know that too.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you.
And
thank you again for having me.
For hanging out, and nice to meet you too, Brian. Thank you, and I will see you. Actually, the next one I'm doing of this is on Sunday, so you're welcome to come out and hang out with me at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.